There's one thing that makes a man think about you nonstop. It's not your looks. It's not your body. It's a psychological switch. And once you flip it, he won't even know why. He can't stop coming back to you. There's a hidden force more powerful than beauty, more intoxicating than charm, and more irresistible than any text you could ever send. And that is emotional significance. When you become emotionally significant in a man's life, when he associates your presence with growth, excitement, mystery, and peace, you don't just capture his attention, you hold it. That's what most women don't realize. They think attraction is about impressing a man. But real, lasting attraction is about impact. It's how you make him feel. If you can become the woman who triggers certain emotions that no one else does, you will stand out in a way that beauty alone never could. Let me walk you through the secret psychology trick that makes any man not only crave your presence, but emotionally depend on it. This isn't about manipulation. It's about understanding what creates real depth in relationships. If you want to create lasting attraction with a man, you need to understand something deeply rooted in human psychology. We are not drawn to what's always easy, predictable, or familiar. We're drawn to contrast, to the richness of emotion, to the roller coaster of curiosity, to the moments where we feel the unexpected. That's where the magic lies. Because what the brain remembers isn't what was flat. It's what made us feel. I've seen this play out not just in relationships I've helped others with, but in my own life. Years ago, I fell for someone hard. She was stunning, kind, thoughtful, almost too perfect. Every time I reached out, she was there. Every question I had, she answered right away. Every compliment I gave, she returned. And yet, something strange happened. I started to feel less engaged, less excited. I couldn't understand it at the time, and honestly, I felt guilty about it. How could I start to feel distant from someone who was doing everything? Right? It wasn't until much later that I realized it wasn't her fault. She was lovely. But what was missing was contrast. There was no edge, no mystery, no space for my curiosity to expand. And without that contrast, without a balance of light and shade, my attention started to wander. Not because I didn't care, but because there wasn't enough emotional texture to hold me. And then, another time in my life, dated someone completely different. She had depth. One day, she'd laugh like a kid at something silly. The next, she'd speak about her fears and dreams with raw honesty. She wasn't always teasy. She had boundaries. Sometimes she needed space, and she didn't always agree with me, and she didn't feel the need to. And guess what? I was addicted. Not in an unhealthy way, but in a way where my mind kept coming back to her. I'd replay conversations. I'd think about her tone when she said something meaningful. I never felt like I had her figured out, but I felt seen. That's the difference. That's emotional contrast. Emotional contrast means giving someone the entire symphony of who you are, not just the pretty parts. It means you can be soft, affectionate, nurturing, but also grounded, confident, and willing to say no. It means you can be fun and light, but also bring depth and presence when the conversation calls for it. That variety, that's what sticks in someone's mind, because real connection isn't about constant harmony. It's about feeling alive around each other. But here's the key: emotional contrast doesn't mean emotional chaos. I'm not telling you to be hot one day and cold the next. That's just insecurity with a bow on top. What I'm talking about is the ability to show range, to be warm but not always available, to be generous but still have boundaries, to be kind but not afraid to call someone out if they cross a line. That tension between softness and strength, it creates depth, and depth creates emotional memory. I've coached women who told me, I'm always the one they like at first, but then they pull away. And when we unpacked the pattern, it often came down to this issue. They were showing just one part of themselves. Often the caretaking side, the accommodating side, the sweet, affectionate, easygoing version that society tells women to be if they want love. But what happens when you only show that side? You become a one-note song. And men, like anyone, need layers to stay invested emotionally. Let me be clear, you don't need to perform. You don't need to create drama or fake a personality shift. What you do need is to stop shrinking yourself to fit someone else's comfort. You have power, fire, humor, intelligence, ambition, and maybe also playfulness, nurturing energy, even vulnerability. That full emotional range is your strength. They're not a liability. The moment you give yourself permission to show all of that, you become unforgettable. In one relationship of mine, I remember a turning point. We were having a light evening, cooking, joking, music playing. And then, out of nowhere, she turned to me and said something quietly profound. She told me a story from her childhood, something painful, something she'd learned from. She wasn't trying to impress me. She wasn't asking for pity. She was just real, and it made the moment unforgettable. It added dimension. I already liked her. But in that moment, I saw her soul and I was hooked. That's the gift you give when you stop trying to be enough and start being whole. Men don't fall in love with perfection. They fall in love with presence, with the feeling that you are fully there, not just smiling and nodding, but offering the weight and brilliance of your full personality. And that doesn't mean being loud. It just means being you unapologetically. Sometimes the most powerful emotional contrast is simply silence in the right moment, or standing your ground calmly when he expects you to bend, or giving warmth when he least expects it. It's not about playing games. It's about playing with truth in a world that's full of performance. And here's what you'll notice when you start doing this. He'll lean in. He'll listen closer. He'll take longer to reply, not because he's losing interest, but because your words are staying with him. He'll feel challenged in the best way, because deep down, every man is looking not for the woman who makes his ego feel good, but the one who makes his heart feel alive. So, if you've ever wondered why he seemed to lose interest or why things felt flat after a while, don't blame yourself. But do get curious. Ask yourself, did I give him the full texture of who I am? Did I challenge him to step up? Did I bring joy and still hold boundaries? Did I show him that I'm not just a partner, I'm a journey? There's something incredibly powerful about unpredictability when it's done with confidence and self-respect. I'm not talking about being flaky or playing games. I'm talking about the type of mystery that stems from having your own rich, fulfilling life. That kind of energy isn't loud. It's magnetic. It quietly pulls someone in and makes them wonder, where is she? What's she doing? And why do I want more of her time? Being unexpectedly unavailable doesn't mean being cold or distant. It means you're not always accessible because your time has value. It means that your world isn't orbiting around someone else's schedule. And that's deeply attractive because people don't chase what they already own. They chase what they admire and can't fully predict. It keeps the story exciting. It keeps the energy dynamic. I learned this the hard way. There was a time when I'd just gotten into a relationship with someone I really liked. I was all in, I dropped things to respond to her messages, rearrange my schedule just to make room for her, cancel time with my friends if she needed something. I thought I was showing commitment, loyalty, presence. But I was slowly killing the attraction without even realizing it. The more I gave, the less she seemed to engage. The more available I was, the less she seemed to value it. At first, I was confused, hurt even. I thought, isn't this what people want? Someone who shows up, who's there, who says yes. But here's what I eventually understood. Attraction isn't just about how much you give. It's about the energy of desire that exists between two people. And that desire needs space to breathe. It needs room to grow. When you're constantly available, every time, all the time, you take away the mystery, the unpredictability, the spark. I remember one night I had been working all day and finally got a message from her asking to meet up. My natural impulse was to say yes right away, to show her how committed I was. But something in me paused, not out of manipulation, but because I was tired. I wanted a night to myself, to recharge. So I told her, tonight I need to rest, but I'd love to see you this weekend. I said it warmly with care. And guess what? She didn't pull away. She leaned in. That small act of putting my own needs first created a shift. It reminded both of us that I had a life, that I wasn't just there to serve her timeline. And that small act of self-respect created a ripple effect. She began initiating more, reaching out, making time for me, not because I played hard to get, but because I was genuinely hard to get. My time wasn't an all-you-can-eat buffet. It was something that had to be earned, valued, appreciated. You see, when someone is always available, it communicates something subconscious. I have nothing more important than you. And while that sounds romantic in theory, it actually removes the challenge, the tension, the curiosity. It makes it feel too easy. And easy rarely sticks in the mind. But when you're unexpectedly unavailable, when sometimes you reply a little later because you're immersed in your purpose, or when you can't meet up because you're committed to your own passions, that's when you become intriguing. That's when you shift from being nice to being necessary. Now, let's be real. This doesn't mean ignoring someone or creating artificial delays. It means being honest about the fact that you have a full life, that your days are filled with things that light you up, that your time is not infinite and access to you isn't guaranteed. That doesn't diminish your value. It amplifies it. I once coached a woman who said, I feel like I'm always waiting for his message. The moment he texts, I'm ready to respond. I drop everything, and still he doesn't seem to appreciate it. I asked her, do you ever delay your responses because you're doing something you love? She said, no. I feel like if I don't answer right away, I might lose him. And that right there was the problem. When you act out of fear, you teach the other person to take you for granted. But when you act out of value, you train them to step up, to respect your time, to cherish the moments they get with you. That's not manipulation. That's dignity. That's the difference between chasing someone and attracting them. There's beauty in unpredictability, not chaos. But moments where someone gets to wonder about you, where they don't know what your next move is because you're living your life fully. Maybe today you're painting. Tomorrow you're with friends. Next week, you're flying to another city, and all of that makes your presence feel like a gift, not a guarantee. There's something powerful about being the person who can say yes, but doesn't always say it, who could drop everything, but chooses not to, because her energy is sacred, her time is protected, her world is meaningful. With or without a man in it, that woman becomes unforgettable. Not because she's playing games, but because she's playing by her own rules. I've seen this shift work again and again. The moment someone starts prioritizing their own life, whether it's pursuing a hobby, investing in friendships, chasing their goals, their energy changes. They become radiant, alive. And suddenly, the person who once took them for granted starts paying attention, starts leaning in, starts chasing, because now they're witnessing someone who isn't waiting around, someone who is in motion, someone who is a force. I've felt it in myself. In the moments when I gave too much too quickly, I became invisible. But when I held space for my own needs, when I stayed grounded in my own identity, became magnetic. And so will you. If you want to make a man truly addicted to you, not in a shallow or manipulative way, but in a deep, meaningful, and lasting way, you have to connect with him where it matters most in his emotions. Most people spend their time trying to impress others with what they do. They try to appear smart, successful, attractive, agreeable. And that might catch someone's attention at first, but it doesn't hold them. What holds a person is how they feel when they're around you. Because emotions are sticky. We forget facts. We forget logic. But we never forget how someone made us feel. Here's something I learned from years of messing this up in my own relationships. For a long time, I believed if I could just be perfect, have the right words, show up the right way, offer the best advice, that it would earn me love, that I could almost reason someone into choosing me. But what I didn't realize back then was that people don't for a checklist, they fall for a feeling. And if you've ever found yourself overthinking, what should I say? What should I do? How can I impress him? You're coming from logic, but connection happens in the emotional space. I remember being in a relationship where I did all the right things. I was present. I was stable. I was supportive. But still, there was this distance, this wall I couldn't quite get through. And it frustrated me because I thought, what more can I do? I'm giving everything I have. And then one night we were having dinner and I dropped all the performance. I stopped trying to impress her. I just got real. I told her something deeply personal, something I was afraid of. I told her where I felt small, insecure, where I was struggling in life. I didn't dress it up. I didn't try to make it sound brave. I just let it out. And something changed in that moment. Her eyes softened. She leaned in. There was silence, but the good kind. The kind where someone is fully with you. And for the first time, I didn't feel like she was listening to my words. I felt like she was feeling me. And that feeling, raw, unfiltered, honest, is what created the real connection. You see, emotions are the gateway to intimacy. When you can bring a man into an emotional space with you, not by telling him how to feel, but by showing him how you feel, he starts to associate you with something deeper, something that doesn't just excite his brain, but stirs his soul. When a man hears you say something vulnerable like, "Sometimes I worry I'm not enough," or "This is something I've never told anyone before," or even when you share joy like, "I feel so alive when I'm around art or music," you're letting him into your world. You're giving him a path to walk with you. And the beauty is, when you go there first, you invite him to go there too. That's when you stop being just another woman and start becoming his emotional home. Most men aren't used to talking about their emotions. Society doesn't reward them for it. Many of them were raised to suppress, to fix, to stay strong. So when they meet a woman who makes them feel, who gives them a safe space to open up without pressure, they become addicted to that rare emotional freedom. Not because you forced it out of them, but because you evoked it from them. But here's the key. Don't try to manage his emotions. Don't try to make him feel something specific. Just focus on being emotional yourself in the healthiest way. Talk about your passions. Share your gratitude. Laugh from your gut. Cry when you need to. The more you show up as an emotional being, the more you signal that emotions are welcome here, that this is a space for authenticity, not perfection. In one of the lowest moments of my life, when a relationship had just ended and I felt completely unlovable, I had a friend who didn't try to fix me. She didn't try to convince me to move on. She just sat next to me and said, "I get it. That must really hurt." That simple act of feeling with me broke me open, and I realized something I carry to this day. Presence is more powerful than persuasion. So, if you want to become the woman he can't stop thinking about, don't aim to convince him of your worth. Let him feel it. Let him experience what it's like to be with someone who lives with an open heart, who isn't afraid to share, who can hold both joy and pain, who doesn't just communicate thoughts, but creates moments. Because that's the truth. People don't replay conversations in their head. They replay moments. That moment you laughed so hard your eyes teared up. That moment you got quiet and looked away because something touched a nerve. That moment you danced in the kitchen barefoot because a song reminded you of childhood. Those are the things that make a man feel like, "I don't want to lose her. I used to believe I needed to be strong all the time. That no one could love the parts of me that were messy, unsure, or broken." But the more I grew, the more I understood that those parts were actually the gateway to deeper love. The truth is, you can be magnetic not by being flawless, but by being real. So, the next time you're with a man and you want to make an impact, don't reach for the clever thing to say. Don't try to impress him with how put together you are. Instead, ask yourself, what am I really feeling right now? And then say that. Say it without a filter. Say it without expecting anything back. Just put your heart on the table. Because when a man gets to feel the real you, the alive, emotional, open-hearted you, that's when he stops seeing you as just another woman and starts seeing you as the one. One of the most misunderstood truths in dating is this: men don't always fall for the most beautiful woman, the most accomplished, or even the most exciting. They fall hardest for the woman they feel emotionally safe with. It's not about how much you impress him. It's about how deeply he can breathe when he's around you. When a man feels like he can let his guard down, that's when he attaches. We live in a world where men are constantly told to be tough, to figure it out, to provide answers, to be strong no matter what. They're not always encouraged to show their fears, their confusion, their pain. So when a woman comes along who isn't judging, isn't correcting, who isn't evaluating every word he says, but instead is simply there, present, accepting, curious, that man doesn't just like her, he starts to feel like he needs her, not because he's weak, but because he's finally found someone with whom he can be strong and soft. I remember a relationship I was in years ago. I was trying so hard to be everything. I wanted to be the provider, the support system, the decision maker. But deep down, I was going through hell. I was exhausted. I was confused about my future. I didn't even like who I was at the time, but I didn't say anything. I wore the mask. I smiled, I joked, I showed up. And then one night, I cracked. We were sitting on the couch. She asked me something simple. Are you okay? And I gave the automatic answer. Yeah, just tired. But she didn't stop. She leaned in. She looked at me in a way that made me feel seen, really seen. And she said, you don't have to be okay with me. And something inside me broke. I felt this wave of vulnerability wash over me, not because she fixed me, not because she said all the right things, but because in that moment, she wasn't asking for anything. She was just there with no judgment, no rush, just space. That was one of the most powerful moments of connection I've ever experienced. And it taught me something. Safety isn't about avoiding conflict. It's about creating a space where someone can bring their truth and not be punished for it. So often we say we want someone to open up to us, but the moment they do, we jump in with solutions, corrections, criticisms, or worse, we use what they shared against them in a future argument, and then we wonder why they retreat, why they've gone up, why they don't talk anymore. It's not because they don't feel, it's because they no longer feel safe to express. I've been on the receiving end of that too. I've opened up about something personal and immediately felt that shift, the raised eyebrow, you really think that? Or why would you do that? And just like that, I shut down. And that's the thing. It doesn't take much to create fear, but it takes consistency to build trust. When a man begins to associate you with judgment, he stops bringing his authentic self. He gives you a version he thinks you'll approve of. But when a man associates you with peace, with calm, with the sense that I can be my real self here, that's when he bonds in a way that defies logic. It doesn't mean you have to agree with everything he says. It doesn't mean you should tolerate harmful behavior. But it does mean leading with curiosity instead of criticism. It means asking, why do you feel that way? Instead of how could you think like that? It means listening to understand, not to respond. People crave empathy more than they crave advice. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is, I hear you. That sounds hard. Just that. Not, you should have done this, or next time, try this. Just recognition. just presence. That's where emotional intimacy begins. There's a strength in softness. Have gone up. I didn't always know that. I used to think the way to be loved was to always be right, to always have something intelligent to say, to always be on. But the truth is, the moments I've felt most connected to someone were when I let myself be soft. When I wasn't trying to be impressive, I was just trying to be real. And the women who allowed me to do that, who didn't rush to fix me or critique me, but simply offered understanding, that's where love began. If you want to become unforgettable to a man, be the place he runs to, not the place he runs from. Don't make him feel like he has to have it all figured out to be worthy of your presence. Let him be messy sometimes. Let him be unsure. Let him have bad days without it changing how you see him. Because if he feels like he can be safe in your presence, you become irreplaceable. You won't always see the impact you have in the moment. Sometimes it's only later, when he reflects on who was there when things weren't perfect, that he realizes your value. And when a man sees you as his emotional refuge, he'll move mountains to keep you in his life. It's easy to love someone's highlights, but lasting love is born in the shadows, in the spaces where you see someone's flaws, their confusion, their pain, and you stay anyway. Not because they're perfect, but because you see them, all of them. And maybe right now, you're thinking, but what if he doesn't do the same for me? And that's a valid fear. But when you model emotional safety, when you show up as a space of peace, you're not just giving love, you're teaching it, you're setting the tone. And the right person will rise to meet that tone, not take it for granted. Some of the most beautiful relationships I've ever seen weren't the loudest, the flashiest, or the most dramatic. They were the quiet ones. The ones where two people could sit in silence and feel full. Where no one had to perform, where flaws weren't deal breakers, but invitations to love deeper. That's the kind of relationship we all crave. And that's the kind of partner you become when you stop judging and start embracing. When you make it your mission not to correct someone's soul, but to connect with it. People think that once you get someone to fall for you, the work is done. That once you've made an impression, once you've had that moment of chemistry, you can sit back and let it ride. But love, real connection, doesn't work like that. It's not up. It's not about making a grand entrance and hoping that carries you through the rest of the relationship. It's about subtle, consistent presence. The kind that lingers, not loudly, not desperately, but gently and powerfully. The truth is, we don't forget people who made us feel something over and over again in small but meaningful ways. Those are the people who haunt our thoughts when things are quiet. The ones whose scent, smile, or words creep into our mind uninvited. And how do they get there? It's not magic. It's intention. They knew how to stay, even when they weren't physically there. I've seen this play out in my own life. I remember someone I dated years ago. We didn't even last that long, to be honest. But I think about her even now, not because she was the most stunning person I've ever been with, not because we had some epic love story, but because she had this way of sending tiny signals that stuck with me. A compliment that hit a part of me I didn't know needed affirming. A text that arrived not when she was bored, but But when she somehow knew I needed it, a shared inside joke that came out of nowhere and stayed in my head for weeks. These weren't big, over-the-top gestures. They were small, subtle reminders that I mattered, that I was seen. What's wild is how powerful subtlety can be when it comes from a place of emotional intelligence. So many people, they need to be loud to be noticed. But the ones who truly stay with us know that it's not about grabbing attention. It's about earning a place in someone's emotional world. Sometimes we think if we're not constantly texting, calling, or posting selfies together, the connection will fade. But the truth is, it's not about frequency, it's about depth. One well-timed message, one meaningful glance. One sentence that hits the heart. That's all it takes, but only if it's authentic. I've been guilty of trying too hard before, of overthinking every message, of crafting the perfect sentence, the perfect compliment, because I thought that's what would make me memorable. But those moments never really stuck. You know what did? The moments I meant, the things I said without trying to impress, but just to connect. That's when the impact was real. Subtle reminders don't mean playing games. They mean playing smart. They mean understanding timing, emotional rhythm, and the value of giving someone space while still making them feel close. It's like music. If the notes are too close together, the melody feels cluttered. But when the spacing is just right, it becomes unforgettable. Maybe you're in a place right now where you feel like you're chasing someone's attention. Maybe you feel like you're giving so much and not being seen. The shift comes when you stop trying to be loud in their life and instead become strategically unforgettable. That shift in energy from neediness to grounded confidence is magnetic. People feel it. They may not be able to name it, but they feel it. And here's what no one tells Yog. Becoming unforgettable doesn't require every second of the day. It requires awareness. Awareness of how people receive love, how they experience attention, how they remember you. It could be your laugh, your stillness, your curiosity about their passions, your way of making them feel important without making yourself invisible. I remember being in a relationship where I felt like I had to perform all the time, like I had to be on just to hold her attention. I was constantly thinking, what do I say next? How do I keep her interested? But it wasn't sustainable. It wasn't real because I wasn't showing me. I was showing the version I thought she wanted. And when that ended, I realized something painful but important. I never really let her see the parts of me that would have made me linger in her mind. I gave her fireworks, not warmth. And fireworks are beautiful, but they fade fast. If you want to truly stay in someone's heart, you don't need to dazzle them. You need to touch something deeper. A subtle word of encouragement when they're doubting themselves. A message saying, I saw this and thought of you, not because you're trying to be clever, but because you genuinely did. A call that isn't to fill space, but to offer presence. Those are the things that echo long after the moment has passed. Subtle reminders are about trust too. Trust that you don't have to be in someone's face to be in their thoughts. Trust that showing up in the right moment matters more than showing up constantly. And trust that when you express your love or your interest from a sincere place, it lands. Maybe not immediately, maybe not loudly, but deeply. You're not trying to flood someone's life. You're learning how to drip into it in a way that nourishes. That builds emotional association. That says, without screaming, I'm here, I see you, and I'm not going anywhere unless I'm meant to. And if you do it right, if you align your timing with truth and your words with care, you won't need to compete because no one else will feel like you. There's this belief out there, if you want to keep a man interested, you need to constantly give, constantly please, constantly show up with more of yourself. That the way to his heart is through endless generosity. But here's the hard truth, people: don't stay connected to what's given freely without boundaries. They stay connected to what they've invested in. If a man hasn't had to work for your heart, he won't value it. If he hasn't chosen you through small sacrifices and meaningful effort, his feelings may remain shallow, even if they look intense at first. What truly keeps a man coming back day after day is not your beauty or how much of yourself you offer him. It's how he feels about himself when he's with you. And more importantly, it's how much of his own heart he's already invested into the relationship. I remember a relationship I was in where I gave everything way too early. I was generous with my time, my energy, my emotions. I'd show up when she needed me, cancel my plans to accommodate hers, send thoughtful messages every day. I thought I was showing love, but deep down I was trying to prove my worth. And the more I gave, the less she seemed to value it. It wasn't that she was ungrateful. It was that she never had to meet me halfway. She didn't have to risk anything. I had done all the emotional heavy lifting for the both of us. And when that relationship ended, it wasn't dramatic. It just faded, slowly, quietly, like a flame that ran out of oxygen. And I realized afterward that she had never truly felt emotionally invested. She hadn't had to struggle for the connection. She hadn't had to earn anything. And so when it came time to choose, there wasn't much tying her to me. That lesson was hard, but it was freeing too, because I finally understood that healthy relationships aren't built just on what you give. They're built on what both people give. And that means sometimes you have to let someone chase you, not because you're playing games, but because it's healthy for them to give too. It's healthy for them to care, to try, to invest. So what does it mean to let a man invest emotionally? It means creating space. It means resisting the urge to constantly fix everything or carry the weight of the relationship on your back. It means letting him be uncomfortable sometimes, letting him miss you, letting him wrestle with the idea of losing you if he doesn't show up properly. It's not about manipulation. It's about dignity. It's about respecting yourself enough to say, if you want this connection, I'm here, but you need to meet me with something real. And that doesn't always look like money or gifts or big gestures. Often it looks like vulnerability, like him opening up, asking questions about you that go deeper than surface level, trying to understand your past, remembering the small things, being present when it matters. And sometimes it looks like you pulling back, not to punish, but to protect your own energy, to allow him the space to choose you actively, not passively, to say, I'm not going to keep giving if I don't see you giving back. I've been on both sides. I've been the one chasing and I've the one being chased. And I'll tell you, when I had to fight for a woman's attention in a meaningful way, when I had to rise to meet her standard, when I had to work to win her trust, it changed how I saw her. It made me value her more. It made me feel something deeper because I knew I had earned my place in her life. And that's the shifting. When a man invests emotionally, he becomes attached, not in unhealthy, codependent way, but in a real, mature way. He sees your value not just as a partner, but as a person. And he's not just enjoying the ride, he's co-driving with you. Here's something most people overlook. Emotional investment creates identity. When a man starts building with you, building memories, inside jokes, shared goals, trust, he begins to associate you with his own growth. You're not just someone he dates. You're someone he becomes a better man around. That's when the connection becomes addictive. Gone up, because you're no longer just someone he likes. You're someone he's emotionally tied to. And walking away from that means walking away from a part of himself. But none of that happens if you're the only one investing. You have to leave space for him to give, for him to try, for him to show up. And yes,